Seattle friend John O'Brien here, looking at the recent Human Rights Art Series drawing of the slain Catholic Archbishop Oscar Romero, who was slain in 1980 in San Salvador, in the country of El Salvador, with allegorical sea monsters. Now I'll shush.
Yeah, I was thinking that's what I really like, the idea of combining kind of this Central American, maybe Mayan mythology with his Catholicism there. I think that's a real insightful idea, you know, that we're all mixes of cultures and ideas, and so yeah, and there's some this is quite interesting, this the insanity of the human experience.
If this reminds you of like pre-Columbian art that was purely accidental, it's I would call it like a happy happening.
Is that the subconscious works in mysterious ways, I guess, huh? Yeah, and a little bit, and, you know, yeah, I mean, monsters, monsters in human form, huh? The guys who shot him in his own church. My understanding is they shot him in the cathedral.
Right, yeah.
And right after Mass.
Aside from the insects and the allegorical sea monsters, let me just point out we have a 4-fanged vampire cat up here.
Suck the blood out of it. Yeah, you know, I wonder if he'll ever become a saint. With today's Pope, it could happen, but that's another story.
This is also a long time ago now, 1980, we're talking about 43 years ago.
Yep, time does fly, I tell you. Yeah, and I like the contrast between very colorful stuff and the black and white stuff. I think that's a cool technique. Very collage-y kind of, which even I used to really like to do collages. Not very good, but yeah, they're fun to, like you said, subconsciously just throw things. And look at these, the two eyes looking, the picture is looking at us, and he's of course got that very somber look. My understanding is he's a very sweet man.
I read that he was very conservative for some years, but then after a priest he was friends with was assassinated, he then took on like an alignment, speaking out against injustice and for the poor and for the indigenous and for the people who were disadvantaged, people who were kind of on the outskirts of society.
Interesting, yeah.
He went through this major metamorphosis.
The guy who wrote Amazing Grace was a slave ship captain. I remember going to an All Guthrie concert, and he talked about how a guy who can change his path towards freedom and care for the poor was his kind of person, my kind of person.
All right.
So thank you for doing this, man.
Thank you, John O'Brien.
You bet.
Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Budgies. I appreciate your input there too.
Background,
All right.